fascinating news cycle. You don't want to miss what's going on. I have a clip here from Charlie Kirk and Megyn Kelly talking a bit about the real serious discovery of mental illness that is taking place in America in the area of Trump derangement. And I think you ought to take a look at this, as well as some important information we've got on what's really going on behind the scenes with this business of America courting disaster in World War III, with Russia putting a nuclear submarine right off the coastline. There's a couple of other things that in this broadcast I think are important to cover, and I do bring out some gossip. I have a little bit of salacious inside stuff, which I'm telling you about what's happening in the Republican Party that is going to, I'm sure, arouse many of you, and I don't want to get into it now, but how do you maintain the mental and emotional and physical stamina? I'm telling you something, there's a spiritual warfare breaking out like it's never broken out before. And I'm seeing it, I'm feeling it. And it's going to show up with a lot of older folks, especially in the attack on their body. And I've got a proactive remedy, something that is working with great power. I've seen all manner of results taking place from this concept of what's going on with stem cell technology. But to give you the inside track, go to level10matrix.com, level10matrix.com, read about what is happening in this area of I would say it's an intervention that is what you do before you medicate or before you operate. What's the word, Mercedes? Regenerate.
Regenerate.
Yeah, there's a cellular regeneration that can happen at a core level in your body. Call 1-800-361-2270. Go to level10matrix.com. Read the report. Take a look at it. And let me tell you something. If you've got something you're wrestling with in your body, if you've got an area in your life that is really a threat to your ability to operate, I want you to go read what's available in the technology that's coming out these days. Level10matrix.com. You'll be glad you did. All right, we left ourselves in suspense a moment ago because I'm of the opinion that there are many young women, perhaps even in the Republican Party, that are saying, why is this always a male-dominated field? We can't have just one woman. It says Kamala. What happened? What other women? There was Stefanik in New York. There's people talk about the Tulsi
Gabbard. What about the one up in the Dakotas?
Yeah, Kristi Noem.
Yeah.
But what's the point, Mercedes? You're saying that none of them. She said none of them really is reaching out into shaking up the minority vote.
No, I didn't say that. That's your boomer interpretation of what I just said. No, I'm just saying, why don't we get a candidate that's going to deliver a segment we don't currently have, right? Like the female vote.
That's what I'm saying.
Shore up the minority vote. Like let's heck, could be one and the same. Who knows? But listen. I love Trump. Everybody's going to come vote because Trump's on the ticket. That's why we're all coming to vote. Nobody's really coming to vote for this vice president, but it would be nice. It would be nice if the Republicans had a woman on there. There's nothing like going to the Disney Hall of Presidents with your 10-year-old and they're saying John Adams, George Washington, and your 10-year-old leans over and goes, "Where's all the women?" And you're like,
and you can say, "Well,
we never had one.
Hillary Clinton."
No, we've never had a female president.
No,
and
my point is,
it's a shame that Kamala Harris is the vice president. The first female vice president was a Democrat, like Kamala. So I'm just saying, there's some strong ladies out there.
I think we really need to curate and cultivate that bench of strong women, because you have to be able to debate. That's part of the challenge. The vice presidential pick. So, you like Ben Carson, he's minority, and Tim Scott. But the challenge is amiable VPs in the Gerald Ford or Mike Pence category is not what we need right now. We need those that can take the heat off the president by becoming the polemicist and the debater for controversial points on their own right and represent the platform. By the way, when I mention platform, I have a bit of a breaking news piece of salacious, incendiary gossip to share live. Salacious and incendiary. I want you to pay attention. I was told in a confidential Zoom briefing and a private meeting that I had in Carolina that there are individuals who are running representing President Trump, and they are pulling off the platform committee. The platform committee is, for those of you that might remember, the Republican Party and the Democrat Party have a platform. Now, the platform is the ideologic parentheses around the real values, goals, and agenda of a party. This is where you have your pro-life or your pro-abortion, the sanctity of marriage versus you can marry any age, any gender, maybe as many as you want. So the platform is important because it creates the ideological reference point for the priorities of this candidate. Why is that important? Because you Bible people out there, especially the 20 million that aren't listening to me that don't vote, your principles here need to have policies that reflect your values, or you are not salt and light. You're a selfish, sniveling little end-time Christian hiding out in the basement, eating granola and soybeans, waiting for the rapture. You got to get your values out there. If the Christians didn't take their biblical values out into policy, you would not have had the eradication of slavery as quickly as you had it in the United States. It's because your principles need to become policies that affect humanity, especially where they're grounded in biblical wisdom that will safeguard the prosperity and flourishing of the culture. Protecting children, for instance, from alcohol is a principle that has a policy. Not having public hangings became a Christian principle that produced a policy. So Christian principles produce civilization where they become policies that the country can embrace and find common sense. Therefore, and I'm quoting you from Wilberforce's work in the UK, where he took principles and put policies. Now, the policies create a platform, and the platform runs a person. Those of you that don't want to be debating about Trump because he's controversial as a personality, get away from him and talk about immigration, the economy, talk about having the transgender policy doesn't allow a parent to be notified that they don't have rights. The school takes the rights away from parents. Those are policy issues that are reflected in the platform. Now for my incendiary bit of gossip. Trump has 2 or 3 individuals that are representing him going from state to state and eradicating strong MAGA, patriot, pro-life, pro-marriage Christians from the platform committee. In 3 states, they have worked to remove names that we know that have been instrumental in helping to form the shall we say, the strength of the Republican platform, the conservative platform, regarding pro-life, regarding the sanctity of marriage and protecting it. They're trying to create wiggle room for abortion and the LGBTQ movement in the Republican Party, which we've known they've done. But when you go to pulling people off the platform committee and replacing them with people that are going to, they will, whatever gains they think they're going to get with that 1 or 2% that are suddenly going to, I'll vote for Trump. No, I like your platform. They will lose with the 11 to 12% of those people that aren't enamored by politics but concerned about America, that once they realize the Republican Party is starting to pull platform people out, there will be a backlash. And the reason I'm saying this now is because I'm doing a shot over the bow. People like us, my little program here, my voice, there's a lot of us out here. And the moment we hear this wind and this rumor, we're coming at you to give you a warning. Do not go there. You need every able-bodied American, and particularly your evangelicals that are not always reliable. You need them to know they got to show up now. Don't mess with your platform because you're trying to get votes from the neutrals, the independents, or the other side. Make sense, Mercedes?
It does. It would make more sense if you did the drawing on the glass board over there, but I don't want to make you walk over there. But I kid you not, what you're talking about, I believe, is the illustration for the body of Christ this election season. That if the body of Christ could get a hold of what you're talking about, it would shift the election.
I would gladly go to the infamous glass board. It's no longer a whiteboard. It's transparent. And I would do so if I was mic'd up for the journey. But I'm not
on the break.
mic'd for the journey.
On the break, we can do it.
Perhaps on the break. But in the meanwhile, we have some other breaking news. I want to talk about this Biden-Zelensky inching us to World War III. I swear, if this guy is in office, or his party and the knuckleheads, the Blinkens of this world, where the lights are all blinking on the dashboard because they're out of oil, Blinken and these guys are putting together a plan where they're hoping, and Zelensky's hoping, he can get NATO engagement, in which case Russia is in their war with Ukraine, is actually at war with Europe. Well, welcome to World War III. You know what we did? Biden made the decision, and his geniuses over there, along with Lindsey Graham. Lindsey, who never saw a missile he didn't want to launch. Biden recently shifted his policy, allowing the U.S. to sell weaponry for long-range attacks into Russia, permitting Kiev to fire long-range U.S. missiles against Russian targets near the embattled Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. Well, here's the situation. See that piece of news over here? Oh, all of a sudden, news over here. Russia, under the direction of Vladimir Putin, has sent a nuclear submarine to go to Cuba so that you have the equivalent of the Cuban Missile Crisis, where you no longer need to have a land-based nuclear missile. He's just parking the submarine off the coast of Miami. And he's saying, all right, you guys want to be weaponizing Ukraine for reaching inside my country? I can reach inside your country too. And you guys are inching your way to a nuclear exchange here at some point. So at some point, we might fire back. You fire at us. We're going to hold you responsible. They're not intimidated by Biden funding and giving an arsenal to the Ukraine. What does Trump say that infuriates everybody? Within 24 hours, I'll be in office and I'll end that whole thing. You know why? Trump sees the dangerous escalation of the idiot policy of trying to constantly Russia on Russia. Stop it. The State Department is obsessed with making Russia an enemy so that they can feed the behemoth of their industrial complex. That's all this is. They want this war. Where does the trillions of dollars end up going to Zelensky? We don't know. Guarantee there's pockets being fed by that stupid war over there. Trump has the ability, he has the capacity to sit down and become a power broker, a new element that needs to be engaged, because the European Union does not want the war with Russia. Interesting, in the votes that took place in Europe recently, last week, there wasn't a stated pushback on the EU's engagement with the war. They were mostly about immigration and about the economics. But what you see under the surface is that the European people are not interested in a shooting war with Russia. And I believe their will is that they don't have to put their money in, which is why it's crazy for the United States, with $33 trillion worth of debt, to be funding a war that brings no benefit to America, to protect the borders of a foreign country when this nation won't even protect its own borders. Hypocrites. Thoughts on that?
No, that was quite the rant. I have no thoughts.
All right. Well, anyway, I think I'm pretty clear on my position. So Biden said we have a 10-year deal. We're going to 10 years. They're going to try to tie Trump into a 10-year commitment. I don't think they have the authority to do that. We'll be right back. I want to take a moment to talk about the volatile financial time that we're in. And I want you to empower yourself with knowledge. My people perish for lack of knowledge, the Bible says. Visit lancewallnau.com/birch and get a free information kit. Consider discussing how to shift your 401k or your retirement account into a tax-sheltered gold and silver account. Why don't you go to lancewallnau.com/birch right now and take action for a secure future. Well, you know, there's so much to cover in this final segment. I don't know how we're going to get it all in, but I will accommodate Mercedes for insisting that I go to the board in order just to say something, to show you something which we think is so critical to the zeitgeist, to where we are. Can you guys play the Megyn Kelly, Charlie Kirk talk about Trump derangement real quick? And how about if I head to the board now while they play that?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Trump derangement syndrome.
And it really is a real thing.
It is 100% a real thing, and it can ruin you. Yes. Like, it can drive you mad. It can lead to the loss of your friends, yourself, your grooming.
No, there needs to be a WebMD. Like, you type in symptoms, like constantly upset, can't watch the news,
right.
Can't watch a rally, about 100,000 cases a year.
Yes.
To like
More.
Very mild to severe. Please consult your doctor.
Like the nutcase who's harassing Justice Alito.
Let's talk about that. That was a coordinated hit.
Oh.
New York Times knows that this might go up to the Supreme Court. They're trying to work the refs because he has an appeal to heaven flag.
Or an upside down American flag. Who cares? Move
Which
on.
Honestly makes me like him more. Like,
I want to do that outside of my house right now.
100%. No,
right?
Because the country's in crisis.
I know.
And so I can remember Trump derangement syndrome. Do you know, I heard those words, Trump derangement, and I wrote a book before Trump ran for office. It was God's Chaos Candidate. And somewhere in here, I said, the media is going to have a complete meltdown. And I literally knew that Trump was going to be called Cyrus by Netanyahu. And I knew that the media was going to go through a meltdown. And I heard the Lord say, Trump derangement. A week later, I'm listening to Rush Limbaugh, and he says, Trump derangement. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's out. It's in the atmosphere. So that's the reason why this segment is so important to you right now. We're talking about, in this very important moment, why Trump derangement is not where you want to start when you're in the battle of persuasion. So let's say that you're talking to somebody who is under the influence of this, we'll pick a different cloud here, pink, for instance. We'll put the person in the cloud here, what to do with Donald Trump? Because the problem is they're listening to the CNN and the MSNBC and the New York Times, and it's like one sobering moment when I was talking to my son, my firstborn son, when he was going to college. I said, you're not really getting a balanced view now. I'm realizing, he goes, no, that's not true, Dad. I watch CNN, MSNBC, CBS, NBC, and Fox. In other words, he wasn't aware of the fact that 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 4 of the origins of his information were all coming from the left. He thought he was getting kind of like a variety. So let's look at this real important idea. Like I said a moment ago, especially for the holy people out there that are all sincerely spiritual, that don't know if they want to get involved with politics, here's the deal. These truths that we hold as self-evident, that God made man in his own image and made him to be equal, these truths have to find their way out of the Bible into life for them to have any practical salt and light in the world around us. So you have to be clear as to what principles you've got. I'm sorry if you're in a church where your pastor doesn't ever talk about, gender or marriage or economics, or even what the Bible teaches about wise and unwise immigration or boundaries, et cetera, because they don't want to be involved with politics. They limit themselves to only themes that can never be practical in terms of principles that become priorities for, what's the word I'm looking for here, Mercedes? We got principles that become...
Platforms?
No, policy.
Policy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Policy, that's what I'm looking for. I knew there were P's out there, but the principles had to become a policy. For instance, Wilberforce in Great Britain said, we don't want our 10-year-old kids drinking because they were working the mines. Then they'd go to the bars with their dads. You got 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and 12-year-olds drunk. And so Wilberforce said the cases of child alcoholism is there has to be a limit on the drinking age. So they limited the drinking age like 16 or 17 if you're in the mines. But they took the children out. And then they said, well, the working hours are 15 hours a day, but there's a lot of accidents happening, especially with the drinking and the accidents limited to 11 hours a day or 10 hours a day. All of those were policy that came out of principles, which came out of Christian influence in government and in society. You guys tracking where I'm going with this? This is where abolition came from. Slavery movement put Lincoln in because the Republican Party split over the issue of the Christian abolitionists insisting slavery was an evil. The principle became policies that Lincoln ran on the Republican platforms. That's why the platform is important. That's why when I say I've got an incendiary piece of information, we're in a battle to keep influence that is Christian on the platform because the policies are going to shift on life, on marriage. Why? Because unscrupulous people who are only interested in how to get their guy in office because they've got money and career tied in with it, they say, hey, we got to loosen up from these crazy evangelicals over here. Oh, yes, smarty pants, we're 40% of the people voting you in. If we ever organized, what a formidable force we could really be. So at the end of that platform comes the DTs, the derangement on Trump syndrome. Now you have the person who becomes president. You don't start here and talk about Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that, because they're going to say, yeah, but there's Gavin Newsom, Michelle Obama. Maybe they'll find another person to pack on top of their pyramid. What you got to do is you got to go down, hey, you guys are talking about taking away a parent's right to know if their child is going transgender. You know that there are laws in California, in Washington State, in Oregon, in Colorado, where the parent doesn't have a right to know what the teacher's engineering and the delicate psychology of their children at 11, 12, or 13, moving them towards an identity as a queer, trans, fluid is what they're pushing in the school system at a young age. Well, wait a second. That's a platform issue the Democrats have. Well, now you got a Democrat versus Republican platform. Wait a second. The policy with the Democrats is parents don't have the right to know. The teachers rule. The teachers are the union, and the union's with the government. It's the government controls your child, not the parent. Not so with the Republicans. And it really comes down to who has authority over the children. Is it mom and dad or the teachers union and the Democrat Party? Republicans say it's mom and dad. You see how quickly you could go down here. Now, by the way, that's not an issue in the African-American community. So this is where a little wisdom comes in. You don't start off with Trump isn't that bad. You don't go there. You start with the issues there. And wherever the issues be there, do you realize that this illegal immigration is flooding the inner cities with a market of people that don't belong there, they don't have a right to be there, taking the jobs away from eligible black males who are looking for work? Not only are they going to the illegal immigrants, but the illegal immigrants are getting credit cards and debit cards. How about that as a policy? Give them the money and the bus fare to go, and then they're going to compete with you for work, and they're getting funded by the government, and they're taking over the school systems as well. So what's happening? Your Republicans are actually fighting for vouchers. You have a right to put your child in their own school, and the government should be supporting a better education for your child, not illegals coming in. You don't have to talk about Trump. You understand the wisdom of the situation? That's the stuff we write about. All right, that's my thinking anyway. So, Mercedes, are you happy I did the 4-part
I think it's great.
dichotomy for you there?
It's going to be a great digital short. I'm looking forward to it. Going to change the election.
Yeah, so women are in charge, ladies and gentlemen, whether you know it or not. Women are running my office over here. I do what they tell me to do.
That is so not true.
Well, I on this next segment, I am concerned about what's happening in culture. And I cannot help but notice Disney's at it again, increasing shareholder equity. Of course, their definition of equity is different than yours. You want to increase the value of your portfolio. Disney's interested in tanking your investment in Disney because they have an ideology they're pushing. And the latest one is, tell me about it, Mercedes.
So much, Lance, so much. But I've been watching the, Instagram reels, and this new prequel to the Star Wars franchise called Acolyte. 2 episodes in, everything's fine. It's going along. You're a normal Star Wars fan. You're enjoying it. Boom, 3 episodes in, 2 lesbian witches have like a seance with the rest of their witches, and they endow these 2 children with the power of the Force, which honestly just destroys complete Star Wars canon. But also, what in the world? We can't just watch Star Wars. We can have 2 lesbian witches in a coven. I mean, give me a break.
Mercedes, I gotta ask you something. Do you have a segment? You typically have something you're going to show us. I want some evidence of the lesbian witches who are creating the new mythology behind the illustrious Skywalker franchise. Can you play it?
Yeah, we'll play a little clip of it, but I don't want to play the whole thing because it's literally them just chanting. So just play a little snippet and you'll see.
When this new Star Wars spin-off, Episode 3 introduces a space race of lesbian witches who create new life together by utilizing the Force, meaning they don't need no man. Watch. Power of one, the power of two, the power of
Great. Also, really big disappointment to my husband, who is a major Doctor Who fan. This season has just been rife with political correctness, wokeness. So we had an episode where the villain was the transgender musician person. And then the most recent, which again, you're destroying Doctor Who canon here, he makes out with a bounty hunter man. So we've got a male Doctor Who making out with the male bounty hunter, which if you know Doctor Who, all of his companions always have a little crush on him, most of them. But he never advances on anything because that's not Doctor Who's style. Well, apparently not anymore, not in the age of wokeness. Oh, and then the other kicker for Doctor Who in the Christmas, you'll love this, Lance, in the Christmas episode, we get a throwback to an old doctor, an old companion. She had been pregnant in the TARDIS. Well, get this, her child that was conceived in the TARDIS who's struggling with identity is actually a they, them, because they were conceived in the TARDIS. And so therefore they're non-binary, they, them. So it's just every box is being checked off in the Disney franchise, which by the way, Doctor Who is a Disney, now owns Doctor Who. So bam, that's my Disney update.
Well, if this trend continues, it won't be long before people are saying Doctor Who, because no one will know who the heck the franchise is. I think it's time for you out there in America to begin to start your own studios, your own cartoons, because there's 80 to 100 million people that want your product and have a gag reflex over the forced indoctrination of the LGBTQ community, which is in the corporate American bylaws now. We'll be back next week. Bye-bye.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.